Hey guys, so I'm back with an update on my Silverstone cube system. Now I've had this done for about a month and I've been using it. I've been using it sort of back and forth with my Mac, but I only have the one monitor at the moment, the Apple monitor, so I've been having to switch it back and forth when I want to use the system, so it's not ideal. I'm looking at getting a separate monitor for just the PC. Right now I'm actually looking at the BenQ BL3201, the 32-inch 4K BenQ, or I'm also looking at the BL3200, the same 32-inch size in a 1440p setup. The reason I'm looking at the 1440p one as well is just because with that one I could hook one output to the Mac and one to the PC, and then I could use it with both systems. With the 4K one I could only use it at the native resolution with the PC, and I'd have to scale it down for the Mac, but whatever. I'll figure that out later. And I'm also looking at the Asus ProArt monitors. I think those are nice looking as well. I was thinking about getting maybe the 24-inch one just for the PC, and then I could have that connected to the Mac as well on the other input. But anyway, so here's a look at the system from the outside. First of all, you've seen this before, I'm sure, but it's got the nice brushed aluminum front. Now that does, it attracts fingerprints and stuff, but it's not that big a deal. I'm not too fussed about it. You got the USBs and headphones and a power button, and there's a slot loading optical drive here, so you can put an optical drive in there if you want to. The non-light version of this case has the button down here. That's the main difference at the front area anyway. When you go along the side, you can see this is where the GPU is, so there's a lot of mesh here, which is good because there's plenty of space for the GPU to intake air. And then if you look along the bottom here, you'll see that there's also a little mesh here for the GPU as well. And there's even a little divider here which divides up the GPU intake or exhaust, whatever it is, from the power supply input. And then here you'll see there's an intake for the power supply, and there's a mesh here that you can take off the screws and clean that out. So that's actually really good for a small system. It's got some pretty good airflow. And then up at the top here, you'll see this is you can put a 120, a 140, or even a 180 millimeter fan. And the system comes with a 180 millimeter fan if you get the non-light version. That will potentially interfere with GPUs. And here is the CPU side. Now this is the main difference between the last time I did an update on the system and this time, because last time I did an update on the system, I did not have the cooler, proper cooler. I just had the stock cooler. So now, as you can see, I have a Noctua NHL12 in there, and I will talk about the performance of that and talk about the installation process in a second. Alright, first of all I'm just going to give you a look at the inside of the case with the cover off. So there's the GPU side. And this is the top. And then this does come off, and there you can see the holes for the larger fan. So that's a nice fan location, and I'll show you in a second. But here's the CPU power cable. There's the USB 3 cables here that I routed. the SATA power cable here. And there's that side again. Yeah, so I'll show you in a second with this fan off, and so you can see the CPU cooler better. So one of the other differences between the newer light version of the case and the original version of the case is that this panel that the fan is installed on was plastic in the original version of the case, and in this version of the case it is metal. So that's obviously going to be better. It's going to be more robust. So now you can see there's 120 fan right here, and then I've got the NHL12, so that's another 120 fan on the CPU cooler right there. And then under that there's a 92mm fan that blows basically right onto the socket for the CPU. Now I was, obviously I had read some reviews and stuff on the performance of the L12, but of course I wasn't 100% sure what the performance was going to be like, but I can say that I'm very impressed with the performance, and it's been really, really good so far. With the stock CPU cooler, obviously stock CPU coolers are bad, but if you ran something like Prime 95 or OCCT, the CPU would easily hit 90 or even 100 degrees within a matter of minutes. So now with this cooler on, with both fans on 100%, CPU pretty much won't go beyond 60 or 62 degrees, right around there. And with the fans on auto PWM mode, the Gigabyte motherboard has a preset for standard settings, standard curve, or quiet, or performance. So that's just going to set the curve according to that. But if you leave it on sort of a standard, maybe it'll get to 70 if you really, really push it hard with Prime 95 or something, but it's really quite good. Now if you jump in here for a second, the reset cable for the case is at the back, and all the other cables for the case were from the front. So what I did was I tucked it behind the GPU there, and then I went down and under the motherboard, and then if you can see here, there is the rest of the cables from the front. So I tucked them down along the front and then down along the bottom edge of the case, and you can see that. See all the cables, basically there wasn't a lot of space to hide cables. So what I did was I just hid them all along the edges of the case. See, so there's the USB 3 cable coming from this side here, where the USB 3s are. I tucked them in along the front of the case and then along this edge here. And then same on this side with the motherboard power and the 8-pin power. I just did what I could. I just came up here and along there and just tried to make it, it's not perfect or anything. I just tried to make things kind of flow together in a sort of nice looking way. Once all the covers and everything are on, it looks good. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I'm definitely really happy with the performance of the thing. One thing to keep in mind if you're buying the light version of this case and then you're buying your own power supply is that you see right here, this is my my mini 7.2 inch graphics card, the Gigabyte GTX 980. But you'll see here that the power supply actually comes out past the GPU slot, or the PCIe slot. So this is a 160mm power supply, and the case supports a 160mm power supply. The case also supports up to a 12.2 inch graphics card, I believe. You can see the graphics card can go right up to the front of the case, but what you need is a short 140mm power supply. Now the the full version of this case comes with a 140mm power supply. So the full version of this case will support up to a 12-inch graphics card right out of the box. But if you're buying your own power supply, you need to be careful to buy a 140mm power supply if you want to put a long graphics card in there. Now you can get from Silverstone a 140mm power supply, and then it will all work out. So I got a Seasonic power supply. It's a 160. So I got, I ended up with a short graphics card, but it turned out fine. I mean, the short graphics card performs very, very well. The cooler is not, it's not too loud or anything. It's not bad, and so it all worked out all right. But that's just something to keep in mind. If you want a long graphics card, you need to get a short power supply. So I'm going to say that I really like this case. Building with it, it was a little bit more fiddly than building with a normal size case, because, with a normal size case there's things like, if you want to take the power supply in and out, you just do it, and it just comes right in and out. With this, there's a bracket, and basically the whole motherboard and graphics card and everything has to come out if you want to take something like the power supply out, which obviously is more inconvenient. But overall, I think the way they utilize the space, I mean, I've got, a GTX 970, I've got a 4690K, a 550 watt Seasonic power supply, SSDs, I've got the NHL12 Noctua cooler in there, I've got the NFP12 Noctua fan in there. I mean, the amount of stuff that's you're able to fit into a tiny case like this, it really is great. And I've just, once I finished the build, I just put the lid on, and I haven't opened it at all since, except to make this video right now. So it's a great case if you just want something that's going to be powerful but small, and you want to just build it, put the door on, and forget about it. And that's what I've been doing, and it's been working great for that. So I'm really happy with it. I think it looks great, performs great, and I would recommend it. There is a new an SG13, but that one has kind of like it's got like a plastic mesh front, or it's got one of the front's plastic and one of them's mesh, but neither one of them looks as good as this solid slab of brushed aluminum, in my opinion. So I would. Even though the other one's newer, I'd still go with the 08 over the 013.